If a woman ever says these 5 things to you, walk away without looking back. There are specific words a woman can speak that reveal absolutely everything about where your relationship stands and how she genuinely perceives you as a man. The vast majority of men overlook these warning signs completely. They fabricate excuses on her behalf. They cling to the fantasy that she will somehow transform into the partner they desperately want her to be. They double down on effort. They convince themselves that patience alone will resolve every crack in the foundation. But certain declarations should never be brushed aside or minimized. When a woman utters these particular phrases, she is exposing her true mentality, her degree of respect for you, and her real intentions moving forward. And if you choose to remain after hearing them, you are voluntarily setting yourself up for an outcome that will leave you broken. This message is not rooted in bitterness or retaliation. This is fundamentally about safeguarding yourself as a man, preserving your self-worth, honoring your time, and shielding your heart from unnecessary devastation. Countless men end up wounded not because women are inherently heartless, but because these men stubbornly refuse to exit when a woman has unmistakably demonstrated that she holds no genuine value for them. The reality could not be more straightforward. A woman who holds authentic respect for you will never address you in a degrading or dismissive manner. And a woman who truly cares about your well-being will never deliberately attempt to fracture you psychologically or emotionally. When she engages in that behavior, you do not enter a debate, you do not attempt to strike a bargain, you do not resort to pleading. You remove yourself from the situation entirely. What you're about to discover are 5 specific declarations that function as immediate and unmistakable warning signs. These are statements that lay bare her level of maturity, her emotional condition, and her fundamental perspective on the relationship you share. These are not playful remarks, not heat-of-the-moment outbursts, and not accidental verbal missteps. When a woman delivers these words, she is speaking from a place of genuine conviction. And if you choose to disregard what she has told you, regret will inevitably follow. Some men operate under the false assumption that walking away is a demonstration of weakness. The truth is precisely the opposite. It is the weak man who remains in an environment where he is openly disrespected. The strong man extracts himself without hesitation. You do not need to raise your voice. You do not need to mount a defense of your value. You do not need to persuade her of anything whatsoever. Your departure is the ultimate statement, a declaration that says, I hold myself in higher regard than I hold your approval. These 5 phrases carry tremendous weight. They are unmistakable indicators that she does not value your presence. She does not envision a future alongside you. She considers herself superior to you. She is maintaining you as a fallback option, or she has already disconnected from the relationship mentally and emotionally. The moment you hear any of them, the relationship has already begun its descent toward its conclusion. The ending is inevitable. It simply has not finished playing out yet. A woman who genuinely desires you will go to great lengths to protect and nurture the relationship. A woman who has finished with you will systematically dismantle it through the weapons of her words. You never instill respect in a woman by remaining present after she has disrespected you. You communicate your worth by departing without a moment of hesitation or backward glance. If any of these 5 statements ever cross her lips, do not engage in argument, do not launch into debate, do not wage a battle to convince her to stay, remove yourself immediately and completely. 1. I don't need you. When a woman looks you in the eye and declares, I don't need you, she is not merely venting frustration in a heated moment. She is pulling back the curtain on how she authentically views your relationship and your place within it. Women simply do not direct these words at men they hold in high regard. They do not utter this phrase to men they genuinely treasure. They do not speak this way to men they truly want present in their lives. When she delivers this statement, her message is crystal clear. You are dispensable, interchangeable, and insignificant in her world. A psychologically healthy and mature woman is entirely capable of maintaining her independence without resorting to disrespecting you in the process. She can pursue her own ambitions, generate her own income, cultivate her own identity, and simultaneously express genuine appreciation for your presence in her life. But the instant she weaponizes the phrase, I don't need you, and hurls it directly at you, she is revealing that she does not perceive you as a true partner. In her eyes, you are temporary, someone she could abandon tomorrow without experiencing any meaningful sense of loss. Many men attempt to salvage this moment. They launch into explanations and justifications. They mount elaborate defenses of their value. They intensify their efforts to demonstrate that they matter. But once a woman has verbalized this sentiment, she has already undergone an internal separation. You cannot successfully argue your importance to a person who has already arrived at the conclusion that you are inconsequential. Absorb this critical understanding. When a woman holds genuine respect for a man, she does not communicate with him in this fashion. Even in the midst of heated disagreements, a woman may experience anger, become emotional, or feel deeply frustrated, but she will not launch an assault on your significance unless her deliberate aim is to inflict pain. And if causing you pain is her objective, she is not functioning as your teammate or your ally. This particular phrase also communicates something else entirely. She holds the belief that superior options are available to her. A woman does not create distance from a man she is terrified of losing. When she proclaims that she does not need you, there is a concealed message embedded within her words. She is convinced that your dependence on her far exceeds her dependence on you. That underlying belief obliterates the equilibrium of the relationship. The very moment she begins to perceive herself as existing above you, the entire dynamic undergoes a fundamental transformation. Her effort diminishes, her concern evaporates, her appreciation for anything you contribute vanishes completely. Choosing to stay after she has spoken these words imparts a perilous lesson. It teaches her that you will willingly endure being devalued. And once she internalizes that realization, the disrespect only escalates and intensifies. She will adopt a condescending tone when speaking to you. She will render important decisions without consulting you. She will treat you as nothing more than a contingency plan because she already communicated her truth to you plainly. You simply chose not to absorb it. Departing is not an emotional reaction. It is a rational and calculated decision. You are strategically removing yourself from a space where your presence carries no recognized value. If a woman expresses a desire to navigate life independently, grant her that wish. If a woman is determined to demonstrate that your absence would be inconsequential, take her at her word. If a woman envisions an existence that does not include you, do not position yourself in the doorway blocking her path. Men destroy themselves trying to prove their worth to the wrong woman. But a man who possesses genuine self-respect does not engage in arguments over his own value. He does not plead. He does not grasp desperately. When she says, "I don't need you," he does not voice a complaint. He walks away. Because a woman who authentically loves you will never feel compelled to announce that you are unnecessary. 2. You're too emotional. A woman may not always deliver this accusation during a heated confrontation. Sometimes she weaves it in subtly, almost offhandedly, as though it were merely a passing observation. But the underlying message it carries is profoundly serious and deeply damaging. When she informs you that you are too emotional, she is not addressing your capacity for honest communication. She is launching an attack on your masculinity itself. She is categorizing your feelings as a deficiency, a flaw, a sign of fragility. And once she has adopted that perception of you, her respect for you begins to erode irreversibly. Here is an undeniable truth. Authentic men experience the full spectrum of emotions. Genuine men endure stress, bear the weight of pressure, confront disappointment, and wrestle with frustration. But when a woman seizes upon your emotions and transforms them into ammunition against you, she is broadcasting a clear signal that your mental and emotional welfare does not concern her. She does not regard you as someone worthy of her support and understanding. Instead, she views you as someone deserving of her judgment and criticism. A good-hearted woman pays attention when you speak. A mature woman seeks to understand what you are experiencing. A loyal woman values and honors your honesty. But a woman who ridicules your emotional openness has positioned herself above you in her own estimation. She demands that you shoulder every burden in absolute silence, functioning like an unfeeling machine. She eagerly claims the benefits of your strength while demonstrating zero tolerance for your moments of vulnerability. She expects a protector but has no intention of ever protecting you in return. This statement pulls back the curtain on something even more troubling. She has absolutely no intention of serving as a haven of safety for you. If a man cannot entrust his authentic feelings to his partner, he is already navigating the relationship in complete isolation. Men endure suffering behind closed doors precisely because they fear this exact scenario, being labeled too emotional, too sensitive, or accused of displaying weakness. And once a woman has affixed that label to you, she will deploy it repeatedly. During future conflicts, she will resurrect it as a weapon. She will dismiss you with, "You're overreacting." She will minimize your concerns with, "You invest too much feeling into everything." She will wave you off with, "You're being dramatic." With each repetition, another measure of respect is extinguished. Gradually, you cease sharing your thoughts, you stop revealing your inner world, you lose all trust in her capacity to handle your truth. And then, with breathtaking irony, she will hold you responsible for becoming emotionally unavailable, completely blind to the fact that her own behavior constructed the wall between you. But beneath all of this lies another essential reality. A woman only characterizes a man as too emotional when she has no fear of losing him. If she held genuine respect for you, she would exercise great care in selecting her words. If the prospect of your departure frightened her, she would offer comfort rather than contempt. If she truly recognized your value, she would never diminish the significance of what you feel. And if she delivers this judgment in the presence of others, publicly and without shame, the situation becomes exponentially worse. That behavior signals not merely an absence of respect, but an active enjoyment in humiliating you. A woman operating from that place cannot construct a meaningful future with you because she is perfectly willing to demolish your spirit in order to elevate her own sense of power. When a woman strips value from your emotions, you do not plead your case. You do not beg for her comprehension. You do not lay your heart bare before someone who has demonstrated no interest in safeguarding it. You walk away because a woman who loves you will never weaponize your feelings or brand you as weak for possessing them. 3. You deserve better than me on the surface. This phrase appears harmless, even endearing. It sounds emotionally vulnerable, tender, perhaps even considerate. Many men hear these words and interpret them as evidence of mere insecurity or anxiety about causing harm. But when a woman tells you that you deserve better than her, What she is actually communicating is that she possesses no intention whatsoever of providing you with what you truly need and deserve. This sentence functions as her carefully constructed exit strategy. It is her method of withdrawing from the relationship while simultaneously preserving her image as the sympathetic figure. She is announcing that she will not invest genuine effort, she will not offer authentic commitment, she will not undergo meaningful change, and she will not rise to meet you on equal ground. Rather than honestly confessing that she lacks the desire to put in the work, she conceals her true feelings behind this deceptively gentle excuse. A woman who genuinely wants you does not engineer your departure. A woman who authentically values you does not suggest that another person could treat you more appropriately. A woman who is invested in building a shared future does not flee from accountability. This phrase simultaneously uncovers a deeper and more unsettling truth. Her decision has already been finalized. She disconnected mentally and emotionally long before you became aware that anything was fractured. You are receiving these words only after she has already ceased making any effort. She possesses the capacity to adjust her attitude. She could elevate her level of commitment. She could become a better partner for you, but she chooses not to because she does not regard you as a man whose loss would devastate her. Here is what men consistently fail to recognize when they hear this statement. She is conditioning you for the ending. She wants you to absorb the dissolution of the relationship without challenging her motives or questioning her character. It is a gentle form of rejection wrapped in the packaging of compassion, but the substance is unmistakable. She does not want to offer you faithfulness, exertion, or dedication. She has no desire to evolve into a better version of herself on your behalf. She has no interest in reciprocating the energy you pour into the relationship. If she sincerely believed you merited something superior, she would channel her energy into becoming that superior version of herself. If she genuinely held concern for your happiness, she would not surrender the relationship without a struggle. She would engage in meaningful dialogue. She would demonstrate tangible growth. She would fight to preserve what you have built together. Instead, she has selected the path of least resistance. I'm not the issue here, you simply need a different person. But allow me to provide you with the honest translation of her words. There is someone else I would prefer to dedicate my energy to. Or perhaps, I have already decided to leave, but I want to escape without bearing any of the blame. Or more bluntly, I recognize that I am not treating you well and I have no plans to start. Women do not push away men with whom they are deeply in love. They create distance from men who have lost significance in their eyes, and the most catastrophic error men commit is attempting to convince her that her self-assessment is incorrect. You're incredible, I choose you over anyone else. Perfection isn't something I require from you. But the instant you leap to her defense after she has diminished her own worth in the relationship, you simultaneously diminish yours. A man who carries genuine self-respect does not linger in anticipation for someone who has already declared her refusal to be the woman he requires. He departs because accepting her words at face value demonstrates far greater wisdom than begging her to reconsider. If she communicates that you deserve something better, validate her assessment. Walk away and go discover exactly that. For, I never asked you to do anything for me, this declaration inflicts a wound far deeper than most men initially comprehend. When a woman confronts you with the words, I never asked you to do anything for me, she is systematically erasing every ounce of effort you have invested in the relationship. Your hours, your emotional support, your financial contributions, your acts of kindness, your spent energy. She is compressing all of it into absolute nothingness. Women exclusively resort to this language when they have stopped recognizing the worth of what you contribute to their existence. It signifies that your efforts went unappreciated, your consistent presence went unacknowledged, your personal sacrifices went unrespected. She is fundamentally communicating that everything you gave was meaningless and without purpose. A woman of quality appreciates a man who makes the effort. She registers your commitment even when she does not vocalize it on a daily basis. She takes note of the seemingly insignificant gestures, the check-in messages, the encouragement toward her ambitions, the steadfast presence during turbulent periods, the investment of your time, your devotion, your unwavering loyalty. But when a woman deploys this particular statement against you, she is establishing beyond any doubt that gratitude has no place in how she views what you have given her. This declaration also operates as a tool of manipulation. Rather than assuming ownership of her own behavior and shortcomings, she inverts the narrative so that she bears no obligation to recognize your contributions. She does not want the burden of guilt that accompanies taking a good man for granted, so she invalidates the notion that you ever provided anything worth acknowledging in the first place. It is a psychological shield. By maintaining the fiction that your efforts held no meaning, she can exit the relationship with a clear conscience and zero remorse. It further exposes something genuinely alarming about her perception of you. She interprets your effort not as an expression of strength, but as evidence of your weakness. To her, your loyalty had become routine and predictable. Your presence was something she could count on without earning. Your attention was something she felt entitled to receive. You had become comfortable to her, a fixture rather than a treasure. And the moment a woman reaches the conclusion that your presence is guaranteed regardless of her behavior, she abandons all respect for the things you do on her behalf. Consider what this statement truly communicates at its core. She is proclaiming that she owes you nothing, not loyalty, not respect, not reciprocal effort. Because within her framework of thinking, you gave freely and she accepted freely, and no obligation was ever established. Some men disregard this glaring signal and respond by intensifying their efforts. They convince themselves that if they just do more, give more, and love with greater intensity, appreciation will eventually materialize. But the precise opposite unfolds. When a woman has concluded that you demand nothing in return for your devotion, she reciprocates with exactly nothing. The relationship becomes grotesquely one sided at an alarming pace. And here exists the more profound reality beneath the surface. A woman only speaks this way when she has already completed her emotional withdrawal. She's preparing the groundwork for total detachment. Her strategy is to render your feelings irrelevant and to construct a justification for her own conduct. When a woman genuinely respects you, she acknowledges your effort even in moments of anger and disagreement. But when she states, "I never asked you to do anything for me," she is confirming that there exists no team, no partnership, and no appreciation between you. You do not remain with someone who behaves as though every sacrifice you made holds no significance. You do not launch into an argument. You do not compile an inventory of everything you have done. You do not scramble to validate your importance. You walk away and allow her to experience the profound silence that accompanies losing a man who genuinely and selflessly cared. 5. Maybe we should take a break. A significant number of men receive this suggestion and process it as something temporary and manageable. They rationalize that she must be overwhelmed by stress, grappling with confusion, feeling emotionally overloaded, or simply requiring a period of solitude to organize her thoughts. But when a woman proposes, "Maybe we should take a break," she is not requesting breathing room. She is laying the groundwork for her permanent departure. This statement represents the cushioned exit, the gentle dissolution, the gradual disappearing act that permits her to emotionally disengage without assuming the appearance of the antagonist. Women do not seek breaks from men they are deeply in love with. They seek breaks from men they are no longer certain about, no longer enthusiastic about, or no longer committed to building a life alongside. A break is her mechanism for placing you in a holding pattern while she investigates what life feels like in your absence. She craves liberty without the accompanying guilt. She desires distance without the weight of accountability. She pursues flexibility without the risk of being confronted about her choices. Countless men stumble directly into this trap. They respond with reassurances like, "Take whatever time you require, I will be right here waiting, I completely understand." But while you sit faithfully in that state of suspension, she is not doing the same. She is not sequestered somewhere in solitary contemplation about how to find her way back to you. She is out living her life fully. She is evaluating her alternatives. She is welcoming and enjoying the kind of attention she did not permit herself to entertain while you were fully committed to one another. Here is the uncomfortable reality that demands your acceptance. A break is never genuinely about repairing the relationship. A break is exclusively about determining whether she experiences greater happiness in your absence. If she authentically wanted the relationship to succeed and thrive, she would remain present and address the problems directly. She would engage in open and honest communication. She would make necessary adjustments and meaningful compromises. She would channel her energy into the process of reconstruction, but proposing a break circumvents all forms of responsibility. She is not required to explain her reasoning. She is not bound by any expectation of loyalty. She is not obligated to demonstrate effort. She obtains complete freedom while you remain trapped in a state of bewilderment and uncertainty. And what typically transpires when the break reaches its conclusion? She returns only if life beyond the boundaries of your relationship failed to meet her expectations. If the other options she explored did not regard her seriously enough. If the superficial attention she received proved to be no substitute for genuine loyalty. If the thrill of novelty could not replicate the stability you consistently provided. When the outside world fails to deliver what she imagined it would, she suddenly rediscovers her longing for you. But this renewed interest does not stem from a genuine realization of your worth. It emerges because the world let her down and you represent familiar comfort. A man who possesses authentic self-respect does not consent to being stored on a shelf, waiting to be selected at someone else's convenience. He does not agree to be suspended and reactivated as though he were a disposable commodity. If a woman requires time apart from you in order to evaluate your significance, she has already reached her verdict. Because a woman who loves you does not abandon the relationship to investigate whether greener pastures exist elsewhere. She nurtures and cultivates the ground beneath your feet. She invests in what you share rather than searching for something she thinks might be missing. When she suggests, "Maybe we should take a break," she is informing you that her heart has already relocated. Do not engage in argument, do not attempt to negotiate new terms, do not volunteer to stand by indefinitely. A man should never find himself competing for a woman's certainty about him. You do not need someone who requires distance from your affection. You do not need someone who seeks liberation from your devotion. You do not need someone who treats your relationship like something that can be suspended and resumed at will. When she proposes a break, she is dissolving the relationship in the gentlest way she knows how. So conclude it with clarity and conviction and walk away with your dignity intact. Final thoughts: when a woman speaks, she is communicating exactly who she is and precisely how she perceives the relationship you share. The majority of men sustain emotional damage not because the warning signs were invisible, but because they deliberately chose to look the other way. They latched onto potential rather than reality. They harbored hope that she would undergo some miraculous transformation. They persuaded themselves that love alone possessed sufficient power to mend every fracture. But the truth refuses to bend to wishful thinking. When her words expose disrespect, emotional detachment, or complete indifference, your sole obligation is to remove yourself from the equation. If she declares, I don't need you, she has already severed herself from you emotionally. If she accuses you of being too emotional, she has forfeited all respect for your vulnerability. If she claims, you deserve better than me, she is announcing that her efforts have permanently ceased. If she asserts, I never asked you to do anything for me, she is obliterating every contribution you ever made. If she suggests, maybe we should take a break, she is rehearsing for a future that does not include you. These are not trivial or inconsequential statements. They are transparent declarations about where her mind and heart truly reside. And once a woman communicates in this manner, the relationship has already undergone a fundamental and irreversible shift. Remaining will not restore it. Altering who you are will not restore it. Pouring even more love into the void will not restore it. She has already revealed to you where her heart has gone. There is immense power in the act of walking away. A man defends his dignity by categorically refusing to tolerate emotional disrespect. You do not raise your voice. You do not engage in heated exchanges. You do not mount a campaign to demonstrate your value to someone who has already dismissed it. You allow your silence to communicate everything. Because silence is the defining boundary that separates men who carry genuine self respect from men who are desperate for validation and approval. Choosing to leave does not render you cold or heartless, it demonstrates intelligence and self awareness. You are deliberately extracting yourself from a dynamic that was systematically depleting you rather than strengthening and building you up. And when you execute that departure, something profoundly significant occurs. Your perceived value rises, you reclaim the energy you were hemorrhaging into someone who never acknowledged it, you cease waging war on behalf of someone who had already surrendered long ago. You stop pouring resources into something whose expiration was already determined. And here lies the most essential truth of all. Once you have gone, she will reflect on what happened. Perhaps not on that particular day, perhaps not during that specific week, but eventually the weight of what she discarded will settle upon her consciousness. Because good men are not commodities that can be effortlessly replaced. Loyalty cannot be picked up at random. Heart and genuine emotional investment cannot be duplicated on demand. A man who tried, who cared, who supported, and who stood faithfully by her side, that caliber of man does not appear twice in a lifetime. But even if regret eventually finds her, your responsibility is not to remain in a holding pattern. Your responsibility is to choose yourself above all else. Your inner peace carries weight, your mental well-being carries weight, your future carries weight, the life you're building carries weight. So if these words ever emerge from her mouth, do not treat them as insignificant or fleeting, accept them as the truth she is handing you. Honor yourself enough to walk away without hesitation and without apology. Because a woman who truly and deeply wants you will guard the relationship with everything she has. She will not destroy it with careless, cutting words.